The Minuteman statue has stood proudly at Concord's North Bridge since 1875. He appears as a man of modest means, waistcoat open, shirt sleeves rolled up and ready to work. In his right hand is his musket, while his left hand rests upon his plow. He represents the citizen soldier who bears arms not as a profession, but in defense of life, liberty, and property. But who were these men? How did they prepare themselves to take on a mighty empire? When the Revolutionary War began, on April 19, 1775, the colonists did not have an army. Instead, they had laws, traditions, and personal responsibilities for military service dating back generations. Ordinary men were required by law to keep arms and to serve part-time in what was called the militia. Often described as ragtag, the militia of Massachusetts Bay was actually quite well organized. All men between the ages of 16 and 60 were required to serve. Town companies were required to gather 6 days each year, 2 days each in April and October for exercise or drill, and 1 day each in May and June for instruction and inspection. Failure to appear when required often carried a hefty fine. Arms and equipment were also specified by law. First was the flintlock musket. The law required each soldier provide himself with a, quote, well-fixed firelock musket, the barrel not less than 3.5 feet long. It was fired by means of a sharp flint striking a piece of hardened steel which produced a spark. The spark would ignite a small amount of gunpowder in the flash pan, which in turn would ignite a larger charge of powder in the barrel, propelling a lead musket ball weighing a little over an ounce. Ammunition was often carried in the form of cartridges, paper tubes that contained the ball and the correct amount of powder. These were kept in a cartridge pouch made of leather and wood. He was also required to have a knapsack, blanket, and a good sword or cutlass. Starting in the early years of the 18th century, bayonets were also mentioned. By 1775, bayonets were the preferred bladed weapon, though many soldiers were still lacking. In 1774, the Massachusetts Provincial Congress, operating with the authority of the legislature, though in defiance of the royal government, recommended that towns raise special volunteer companies of Minutemen. These volunteers were to train twice each week and keep themselves, their arms, and equipment ready to answer an alarm at a minute's warning. Hence the name Minutemen. The Congress also recommended they adopt the same drill manual as the British Regular Army, the 1764 Manual Exercise. They wanted to show the regulars, who often looked down on the military skill of the country people, that they were deadly serious and not to be trifled with. Congress then set about gathering arms and equipment in preparation for raising an army of 15,000 men. Concord was one of several places where arms and supplies were stored. A group known as the Committee of Safety established a network of alarm riders and signals to alert the countryside if the British regulars should march out of Boston. All was ready, waiting for General Gage's next move. When the alarm came on April 19, 1775, Minutemen and militia from all across Massachusetts responded. 4,000 mobilized on the 19th itself and arrived in time to fight. In less than a week's time, 20,000 answered the alarm, set up for a siege, and kept the regulars trapped inside Boston. The Revolutionary War had begun.